Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at NECA's Crash Bandicoot Deluxe figure with Jetboard, which is almost the exact same figure as before with a big-ass accessory. The figure is a little bit different, and obviously it comes with the big-ass accessory. So it's not quite the exact same thing as before, so there's a little bit to talk about. So let's go ahead and get this guy off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about to the very top of his hair, about 6 1/4 inches, which makes him just about 16 centimeters. And like I said, it's almost the exact same figure. The only real difference is the face. He's got a different expression. His mouth is open a little bit wider. Otherwise, it's mostly the same. I don't have sticky shoulders this time. That's a really good thing. Shading seems to be a little bit more subtle, but still fairly contrasty. Shoulders are definitely kind of ugly looking too. I'm not sure why they're so, they look dirty. That's kind of weird. And then the mohawk is still not the right color. This figure does do a lot of things really well though, and overall the finish is not too bad. We'll go ahead and talk about the Jetboard in a minute. I want to talk about the articulation because it is the most important thing as far as this figure goes, just because it looks like it shouldn't have much, but the head articulation is phenomenal. If you want to pose this guy's head, you can do a considerable posability test on this. It's just like so much better than so many other figures, and he doesn't have a neck, and his head is half of his body, but it works so nicely. Very pleased with that. The eyebrows on double ball pegs make posing him even better because you can create different expressions, which is pretty cool. I like that a whole bunch. Again, the shoulders, not the best situation, especially this time it doesn't even really want me to pose it. I don't know what's going on with this shoulder, but it's very tight. But you do have your ball hinge in there. It's actually technically a swivel hinge. So this side works a little bit better, but you do go out to the side about horizontal, and then you have your full rotation. And then for the elbow, we have our hinge with our bicep swivel built in down there, which works pretty nicely. That's okay. For the wrists, we have a swivel and a hinge. However, it's reversed from what it should be, so that it swivels at the end of the hinge rather than the other way around. So it's kind of weird. You generally want your swivel to exist first. That way you can swivel it and then hinge it, but this one doesn't do that. So you can only do like weird poses with it. So it's a little odd that they did it in reverse order. We do also have a diaphragm joint in here, which again, just like the head joint, works really nicely. You can pose this guy's torso and head so well compared to so many figures. It's very nicely done. His hips are just ball pegs though, and for whatever reason, this one likes to pop off. And here's the problem with these ball pegs, because they afford almost no range. The pegs are vertical. That means you can't really move the legs very much. That's it. If the pegs were horizontal and the socket was horizontal, you could at least swing them forward and back. But these guys have only about, well, without the leg popping off, they only have about 45 degrees of range, maybe. So I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure why this one likes to keep popping off. I haven't had that issue with the other one at all. So the hips are very limited. There is a knee joint in there, so that'll help with posability, but it only really affords a little tiny bit of range, so really not the best range at all. Unfortunately, these figures are basically going to just be put in a fairly static pose and look good on a shelf, which I think that's fine. I think that's okay. It's just kind of a shame to me that they did such an amazingly awesome job for the neck and the torso, and then the shoulders and the hips and knees are fairly much the opposite, so it's kind of a bummer. The ankles are on a ball peg, but they have very minimal range. Basically none, just enough to kind of keep him standing. So again, kind of a bummer. So that's not the best situation. For this thing, I don't know. I'm of two minds. The back part is done really nicely. The shading on the exhaust looks really good. Very pleased with that. We have like some fake scratches and things on here. That looks really good. And then we come up here and it just kind of feels cheap. I mean, the line work is not lined up very well, and the shading's only acceptable. It's definitely not going to look bad, and once it's on the shelf, it'll probably be okay. You probably won't notice it too much. But it's worth mentioning that the paint job definitely could be a little bit cleaner in the front half. I do like the sculpt, though, and the fact that it actually does have a belt up here, so that's kind of nice. And these do rotate if you want them to, although it doesn't have any stand or anything, so it's going to just sit flat on your shelf. And he's going to stand on it like that. So it's going to look cool on a shelf, no doubt about it. Let me set it down here. It's going to look fine, but there are definitely issues. You already know from my last review that I recommended Crash as a figure, but you need to be aware that there are definitely issues. The lack of the brown for the mohawk, which is definitely an inaccuracy, and then the obvious issues with the articulation. Not things to be ignored, but you have to decide what's important to you. I would say I still recommend it overall if you're a Crash Bandicoot fan, but if you're just in the market for collecting cool figures, even if you have no connection to the character, this might not be the one for you. It's not especially impressive, given that the jet board doesn't add that much value and the figure still suffers from the same issues as before. I don't know. It's half good and half bad, so you're going to have to decide for yourself, I guess. I like a lot about this figure, and then there are things that I definitely don't like about it. So there it is. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And if you're not subscribed, you probably should do that too, because I do have new videos up just about every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you come back for that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.